Okay, you guys got the multi-view drawing template from Schoology, downloaded it, put it on this, or you got it off the flash drive. When you open it up, you notice the template's a little bit different, so you're gonna have to adapt it, change the hour, change from my name to your name. The reason, and then you'll have to put the title of the drawing in there. So just to show you a different type of layout, also to save us time, it's drawn for you. The model view is the same. It's going to show you similar. The other difference is that we have now what are called layers. Okay, so just like we did in hand drawings, we have different layers. We have construction lines, cutting plane lines, dimensions, hiddens, object lines, section lines, viewports, okay, and a border line. You notice that border line selected because, well, all these are border lines. Your title block is drawn in border lines. So how we start creating a drawing is we follow the same steps that we did by hand. We're going to start in our object line layer because what do we start with? We start with our front view, which is drawn in object line. Okay, we're going to go back and do the half lap that we drew up here. Okay, that's on the board. So I got my object line. I'm going to get my line tool. I'm going to draw a vertical line that is 1 3/4, 1.75. I might have to zoom in a bit, which is fine. And I'm going to draw the width or the length of this object, which is 3.5. Again, go up 1.75 and then over to my endpoint. We also know that this being a half lap, that there's a line going from midpoint to midpoint within this view. Right? So draw the midpoint to midpoint of the view.
How long is the bottom line?
3.5. At this point, what was our next step of our procedures in drawing a multi-view drawing?
Draw the side view.
We draw the next view by what?
Drawing lines off the left.
Using construction lines and projecting them both horizontally and vertical. Right? So I get my construction line layer. Now this is something new, so pay attention. There's actually a line tool for construction lines. So I'm not going to use my traditional line here. In the draw drop-down arrow, in the middle is a construction line. So a construction line, it says, creates a line of infinite length. And it shows to create construction and reference lines and for trimming boundaries. So I select my construction line, then it gives me options down here on the bottom. Specify point or horizontal, vertical, angle, bisect, or offset. Okay, I need to project all things horizontally and vertically, so I can type in H for horizontal and click on each one of these endpoints. Okay, my construction line layer is yellow, so it might be difficult to see up there, but I did draw it. You can see them there. Then I can hit spacebar and spacebar to get back into it and go V for vertical. I go off of each one of these endpoints. So now I've projected both lines vertically and horizontally. We also know that we're going to need a 45-degree miter line, right? So I can hit spacebar again, get back into my construction line, and type in A for angle, enter the angle 45 degrees, and click on the point that represents my total length and total height, which is right here. And I have a 45-degree miter line going off of this point right here. Right? So those are all the construction lines I need off of my front view. That makes sense from what you guys did by hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset my spacing, and I'm gonna offset my width because I need construction lines anyways. So I'm gonna offset my spacing. For this one, I'm just gonna say 1. It will vary. It will vary because of the size of your drawings. So spacing won't always be 1. If you have a larger drawing, you might have a spacing of 4 or 5 inches. Okay, but whatever looks good. So I'm going to offset this construction line to the right 1 inch. Then I'm going to spacebar to get back into offset, and my width or depth of my drawing is 0.75, so 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to offset 3/4 of an inch and go to the right. At this point, I can see where my right side view is. So what I'm going to do is get my object line, layer, then I'm going to get my line tool, and I'm going to draw off of each one of these points my right side view. Now again, I know that my half lap is half this distance, so I can go just from midpoint to midpoint.
How long is the width of that?
Huh?
What is the width of that for the short line of bar?
This one?
That one up there, yeah.
It should be 3/4 of an inch. We should have that construction line, so we should just be able to snap right to it. Now I need to create a couple more construction lines just to be able to draw my top view. Okay, so I get my construction line layer back, get my construction line back. I'm going to start first by going vertical, clicking on this endpoint off of our middle here, spacebar, and then going horizontal off of each one of these intersections on my 45-degree miter line. So I don't have to measure my top view. All I had to do was use my construction line and my construction layer to then create my top view here. So at this point, I just get my object line back and I work my way around, point to point to point, point to point to point. Okay, so I just made all my views that I need. Now it looks a little complicated with all these construction lines, right? It's hard to work around this object, and it doesn't look very clean. So in your layer properties, you can actually turn off layers. Okay, using this light bulb, you can turn on and off layers. So if I hit the light bulb, I turn that construction line layer off. Okay, so now I no longer see the construction lines. The thing with multi-view drawings is we also need to dimension them. So we have a dimension layer, which is colored in green right here. So if I get my dimension layer, all my dimension tools are in annotation. So I can either use them here in annotation, or I can click on annotate and I can have the same tools there. Okay, but just working off the home tool, you have different types of dimensions. You have linear, aligned for angled lines, angular to specify angles, radius, diameter for circles. Okay, this being all straight lines, we're going to use linear. So how to dimension, some dimension rules, is I want to keep all my dimensions within my views. Okay, so, and I don't have to dimension everything. I just have to specify everything's length. So if I specify my total length here, I don't need to show it up here. It's given. That's the top view of this. So of course this line right here is 3.5 because this line's 3.5. Okay. Also, if I have a internal dimension, I put it underneath my total length. I don't want to cross those two dimensions. Okay. So then I also dimension my height. Again, I don't have to specify each one of these vertical lines as height because I specified it here. Width. If it goes outside your object, you can change them to go on the other side. So within our multi-view drawing. And again, full length measurements go outside or on top of shorter length measurements within an object. I never put a dimension inside my views. I want those views clean. Does that make sense? Then the final step would be to put it in our layout. Each one of our layouts have a a viewport already, and the viewport layer is turned off, but you can still find it. If you can't find it in there, you type in ZA, zoom all, and then your drawing will view within it. Then I set it up, double click, and then I'm done. So at this point, I would file, save as, MV-EX dash your initials. Okay, so multi-view example dash your initials. That will keep our template still clean, so we can open up our template each time. Okay.